No matter where your business is today or where you want to take it, you'll get there faster and more profitably with an operating system. Welcome to TeamOS, your guide to starting, growing, and optimizing a real estate team. Here's your host, Ethan Butte.
For insights into starting, growing, and optimizing your real estate team, we're talking with Ryan Rodenbeck and John McCarthy. A little background and a fun fact before we get started. Ryan's the broker, owner, and CEO of Spyglass Realty, which he started in 2008 as a solo agent. Johnny joined as a realtor in 2015 and a few years ago became sales manager. And one of these two guys was on a house flipping show called Property Ladder about 15 years ago. Ryan and John, thank you both for talking TeamOS today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. And Ryan, that wasn't you. When you first saw that Property Ladder episode, what did you think?
Johnny looks young now, and he looks like, I think he was like 12 years old when he was in that age. But it was very interesting. We watched it several times as a group, and it's a fun show.
That's great. It's awesome. Johnny, how'd that come together for you? And where were you in your real estate career at that point?
Gosh, so in my real estate career at that point, that was right after my first year in real estate, after I was a rookie in California. And that came together because I was asked to help out and list a property for another agent from another city, and turned up that it was a perfect house to fix and flip for a TV show, and came together with a lot of hard work and commitment.
Cool. Well, I'll link that up in the notes so people can follow the drama of a bathroom, I think, falling off the side of the house at one point. But let's get in where we always start on this show. And I'll start with you, Ryan, on this. In your experience, what is a must-have characteristic of a high-performing team?
Yeah, I think is a leadership structure. And, Johnny and I covered this at FubCon, where we're using EOS. I've got I think when you grow to a certain point, your figurehead cannot do everything, and you need to have very strong leadership, as evidenced by John McCarthy and Sonny Tracy and Caleb Nelson. You need to have an organizational chart. It needs to know who does what, and you need to have systems and processes in place so that you and your entire organization knows what happens in any particular situation.
Awesome. We're going to get into some of those details there, including when this occurred to you, when you decided to implement EOS. But before we get into some of those details, Johnny, what is a must-have characteristic of a high-performing team in your experience?
I was thinking about that, and there's a lot of things that teams need, like Ryan mentioned. And for me, what I came to realize that's helped me grow personally and run a team personally, and now as a team with the leadership, is leverage and learning where those leverage points are. For example, Ryan learned a leverage point in me where he could take me out of production and bring me on full time. And I learned a leverage point for me coming out of production. I can run the company. So, and even in my personal business, just people and processes and systems. So I leveraged Ryan and Spyglass with all the tech and all the money he spent on building the company so that I could be successful without having any overhead. So I think leverage and identifying where those leverage points are and how to utilize those.
That's great. We are definitely going to get into the point at which a sales manager made sense for the team. But Ryan, I'd love for you to kind of walk us up to 2008, the start of Spyglass. What was going on for you in your career at that point? It's from what I've read, it doesn't sound like you intended to build a massive team necessarily. So just kind of walk us through that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So before I started Spyglass Realty, for some point I had a brokerage of my own where I had a partner in California and a property management company. And that was a whole nother episode. We could go into that, but it ended up in a complete disaster. And then so for about a year, I started with another broker, and this was right when the market crashed in 2007, and deals started getting, very dwindling. And at the time, I wanted to be the master of my own domain. I didn't want to be dependent on anyone else. And so the thought was I was going to start Spyglass Realty as a solo agent that is also a broker. And it morphed into, I had a few agents with me for reasons that I do not know because we did not provide anything. And then in 2015, we had a group of probably, I think we had only 7 agents at the time. And I was bringing in leads at a very high level. I was using Tiger Leads. And I wanted to take well, I had learned to become a top producing agent, and I wanted to take what I had learned and try to filter that down to other agents that work for me.
Really good. Johnny, so you joined around that time. What was going on in the company from your perspective, and what made Spyglass the right choice for you at that time?
Yeah. So at that time, by the time I moved here, I have several years experience in real estate in California and construction sales. So when I was moving to Texas with my wife and daughter, who was 4 months old, I knew that I had to quickly build a real estate business, and I was prepared to create it myself. I even went to Ryan and showed him everything that I had in place, the technology, all the processes, everything that I need, a CRM. And Ryan, so I was referred to Ryan from a friend of mine. And when I was interviewing around town, it was either going to a brokerage where I was going to be an independent agent, I had to just do it all myself anyway, or find a team who was going to bring me on, and I have to prove my worth to them. Or Ryan just basically said, if you have what it takes, I've invested in my company with all this technology and leads, and here it is. And he showed me his computer and everything he had set up. And at that point, it was like an aha moment. I said, wow, this is exactly what I need, because I can just plug right into everything that he's already invested in. The infrastructure is there. And I just had to sit down and get to work with everything that he provided at that time and build from there. So when I joined, I met everybody in the company, and there was a bunch of independent agents, people kind of doing their own thing. And I was able to really kind of harness. I was one of the only ones really working within the brokerage resources successfully at that time quickly. Everybody else was kind of doing their own thing as well. Ryan was going to do it himself. He was like the platinum top 50 himself, as he's growing this small brokerage at that time. Yeah.
Cool. Quick question for you, Ryan, before I have you characterize your team however you prefer. I'd love to know about the name Spyglass. Mm-hmm. It's such a cool name, and very obviously the consonants of Ryan Rodenbeck Realty or something works. Like, where did the name come from for you? Does it mean anything in particular to you?
Yeah, sort of. So I've never been a big fan of, I'm not just like love my last name. So Rodenbeck Realty was never going to happen. And then I'm also not a big fan of naming your company after yourself. I think that's more of an ego play. And I wanted something that was that would eventually be more than the Ryan Rodenbeck Show. And so, at the time, we were going to focus on investment property, and we looked up everything from, InvestTex, to any kind of type of thing. And then we would check the Secretary of State's websites and then GoDaddy. Okay. And then we kept going through all kinds of stuff, and we're watching a movie, and then Spyglass Entertainment came up. Also, there's a very popular road that almost everyone in town knows called Spyglass Drive. So we checked Secretary's website, we checked GoDaddy, it was good. And we started giving out, I remember tell the story all the time. The first week I started giving out my cards, someone says, "Oh, I've heard of you guys," which was literally impossible. But that's how, I think that's the power of name recognition. So if you're starting a brokerage anywhere, like maybe check some popular streets.
I love it. And that cross-reference between what's legally available in real life and what's legally available digitally. Really good. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Quickly, just characterize your team here toward the conclusion of 2023. Size, market, culture, however you prefer. Just kind of characterize your team for folks who aren't familiar.
Yeah. So right now we have about 130 agents. We have about 60 of these agents that we call indie, independent. And all that means for us is that they're at this current time not taking leads. And then we have about 70 agents that are taking leads. Our main focus is to try to get agents to be self-sufficient. So of those 70 agents, we'll have 20 at any given time that are phasing into not taking leads. And then sometimes we'll have of the 60 agents, we'll have 10 that say, you know what, I need to fill up my pipeline. And then so we have our leadership. Johnny's in charge of sales, director of sales. We've got a marketing director. We have Sonny Tracy, who is operations. And our company culture is very robust. Just last Wednesday, we went to the Austin American Statesman, the local newspaper, had the top workplaces, and we won the #1 spot there. So obviously what we're doing is working in terms of a cultural basis.
Awesome. Congratulations. I want to transition into this director of sales situation. And I'll stay with you on this, Ryan. What was at what point in the business, what was going on for you? And where the way I really would like you to kind of offer this is, of course, true to your own experience, but then also for that person who's leading a small team, they're a little bit overburdened. Whether or not they've left sales production, they're feeling overburdened, and they're thinking about implementing some of these roles. How are you thinking about the sales manager or director of sales role, and what was going on in the business at that time?
Yeah, so Sonny has been with me for 12 years coming up, and it's been Sonny and I have been probably the heartbeat of the company for that entire time. Johnny was working as a kind of a team lead, the highest converter of leads in our company, and he had a quasi role as a sales manager, but not nearly full time. So it got to be I think we had about 60, 70 agents. We were bringing in a massive amount of leads, and it was a lot to take on. So I knew that we needed a sales director, through the coaching programs I wanted. Like when you get to that, or the coaching programs I'm in, when you get to that level, you need someone that's going to own that space. And, since Johnny has already kind of been working on it, I went to him, and I got to tell you, it was a risk in a lot of ways. Not hiring the sales director, but hiring Johnny specifically as a sales director, because here's why. He was the highest converter of leads. Okay. Like, you're going to take him out of that role. And we knew through coaching, you needed someone dedicated to that's not going to be doing sales. The other role, the thing that was a fear, not much of a fear, but it was somewhat of a fear, is he going to be able to do this at the level that we need him to? Okay. I can tell you without one doubt, I would never expect the level of satisfaction that we have gotten from him. Not only, it's not like one of these things I think what it is one of these things, here's what I need you to do, right? But then he went from there to there, owning that role, implementing processes that just, never even thought of before. So it's like you give your task list and he's like, scratch that. I got that. That's the easy shit. Here's what I'm really going to do. Now that didn't happen overnight, but it's just it was such a fulfilling progression.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Johnny, I love this story from your perspective. I'm sure that you saw some threats of your own. The one that comes to mind immediately, and I've heard this in a number of sales dynamics, like the top producing salesperson, I'm not even talking real estate here specifically, the top producing salesperson becomes a sales manager. There are compensation challenges. The role is completely different. It sounds like you made that transition really well, but I'd love to hear when this idea was introduced to you, and you were already, it sounds like, quasi doing it. What excited you about it? What concerned you about it? And what were some of the boxes you needed to check for yourself personally to say, check, check, check. All right, let's do this.
Yeah. That was definitely a pivotal moment. I know, because I was just coming off of a year and a half of extraordinary sales for me. So income, we were set. They're like, this is great. So now, and this is where leverage comes in too, because I now knew, and this is what I was working so hard within the company as a realtor, was to learn all the systems and processes that Ryan had in place that work, and basically just copy everything that he's been doing. And that's what was my quasi sales manager role, was now that I've learned it, it works, now teach it and train it to the other agents to however capacity they can, take it and run with it and execute it as well. So I was looking at, wow, I had a lot of money coming in. This was great. I'm about to do 0 sales. I think we had maybe 40 something agents at the time, 45 agents or so. And here's the thing. So Ryan's always invested in me to have coaching and consulting individually. So when this came up, I had I had a professional consultant to talk to as well to help me talk through some of my concerns and issues and growth. Because like if I'm either going to run my own real estate team, and Ryan was great about it. He said, look, whatever you want to do, I got your back 100%. You can either grow your own team within the company and you're going to crush it, or you can help me grow the company and we're going to crush it. And so it wasn't a hard decision for me to make. It was just making sure that I had all the unknowns that I didn't know coming out of sales. Because that's all I ever knew was get up and go earn my check, go get it. And Ryan was basically saying, hey, you've earned it. I want to make this a little bit easier on you. I've got a position for you. And if you can take what you've been doing and apply it in a, more or less 40 hours a week and get some weekends back and just apply yourself 100%. One, no sales. So you're not distracted by your own sales. I was like, I can do that, but I got to phase out of that. Help me. How do I do that? I needed his help there too.
Just the emotional aspect of it, I'll bet.
Right. And there's leverage there. People, I had just done 40 something transactions or more without basically leaving the home or even going into these homes by leveraging the people and the systems that Ryan had in place. So when I was thinking about who's going to be the person leading this company from 40 something agents to several hundred, maybe doing $1 billion in real estate sales, is that going to be me or someone else?
Yeah.
So it took a few months to make the transition and get everything in place and go back and forth to make sure we got all the details worked out. Because this was new for Ryan as well. So like each night, I'm sure we were both like, how's this going to work? Is it going to work? Am I going to hear back from him? Like, what's going on? So, and it was the best thing I think we've ever made. Best decision we've ever made.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit, there's definitely some nervousness about it. And I was like, Johnny, I got 2 words for you. Nights and weekends.
I was like, how? Time management.
Yeah. Because he was working his ass off, right? I mean, this was during COVID. He was, they were being really careful because he had young children so although he wasn't like going out, like Johnny was like, he was making sales over Zoom all the time, but that was all the time, nights and weekends and all. And of course, there are things we take care of at nights. But what I've always said is that when I got out of doing sales and I have an agent that calls me at 9 o'clock, I take that call, like that's their stress. You're not dealing with that. When you hang up that phone, I give them the advice, and I'm sure Johnny can relate to this, like, thank God that's not me,
Yeah. That's so crazy. Okay. I would love to hear from either of you on one thing that was super interesting that you shared with me is this idea of, almost half the team is participating directly in the lead flow that you're generating. The goal is to shift them into this current approximately other half who are self-sufficient. I would love to know what that process looks like. Do you generally recruit people into the we've got leads for you, or are you recruiting people into both sides of it? And then, Johnny, what aspect of your role is supporting that transition through coaching and leadership and guidance?
Yeah, so I guess I'll first start, and this is in Ryan's wheelhouses on the recruitment side, because we do have leads that come in, and we do have a lot of success with our leads, and that comes with a lot of training and requirements. So when you are working within our leads product, you're required to do certain things, which helps when you're not working within our leads product. You understand what it takes to get the job done. So you're not just pacing by every day. You know what it takes. So So that's been like one of the most challenging things is when I plugged into my sales manager role, was that we were growing. So it wasn't that I was just going to help teach some agents what we're doing. We had to put into place the systems to bring on agents and teach them and catch them up so that they can catch on quickly. And we were bringing on agents that maybe had 6 months experience, a year experience, not a lot of experience in some cases, and some that were doing 20 or 30 more transactions and needed to kind of be fast paced into what we're doing and didn't need any type of mentorship. So that's where we had to develop out more coaching and training on a low level and a high level. So these are things like, Ryan, he said, look, one of your tasks is you've got to create a program to level up all the agents so that when they're within this company, regardless of their experience, they can go through this program, this training, and get caught up. And we didn't have a time period on how long it should take, but basically within like a 90-day span, you can get a real immersive experience on what it takes to be successful selling real estate at Spyglass Realty within our systems and our technology and how we teach and how we train. And that way, that's kind of like a default. Cool, come on board. We've got this level up program, but then also we've got all these, training and modules built out for onboarding to basically catch everybody up when they do come on board based on what they need. And assessment questions, ask them questions along the way and help kind of like steer them where they need to go within the company, what they need to focus
based
on
on their experience,
and what they brought to the table.
Yeah. And from the recruitment side of it, so, we target two types of agents. One, that are veteran agents that are doing business and want to just plug into our systems. And then the other ones are, we don't hire brand new agents unless they're coming on with a mentor or on a team. And so the other type are ones that have been in the business 1 to 3 years and done between 1 and 3 million. Because if they've sort of quote picked the wrong brokerage and they were still able to make it in real estate with that brokerage, then they're going to flourish within our systems. But one thing that I realized was, and look, recently we recruited some top agents, some really good agents. That was a priority to me for a long time. And it's still something I still want to do. But like what I realize now is like, we're so good at making agents great that, that's the primary focus for me and I don't need the ego play of like, oh, I just got, the number one agent in such and such zip code, right? Would I want to? Yes. Do we do it sometimes? Yes. But really, like, I'm more proud of the fact that we're taking agents to a different level than where they were before. And that happens more often than not in the agents that are newer.
Yeah. Across the population, again, I'm thinking of like the two groups of agents, broadly speaking. I would assume that the more experienced folks are probably coming in a more self-sufficient side of it, where some of the younger ones that are really looking to maybe even double their business in some window of time through the pieces that you've put into place and through some of the coaching and guidance, they're probably coming in with some of the support via leads. Is that the case? And you said the goal is to move more. Like right now, I'm splitting it in half in my mind.
Yeah.
But you'd like that to be 70-30 or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. And so what we found is the agents that have come in that are newer agents and they're learn real estate, learn how to do our things through the practice of leads. They have, when they become independent, not taking leads, they are so much like they have so much better practices on how to follow up, and not just with leads, but like with their past clients and whatnot. And so kind of the challenge with veteran agents is you have to, and the ones that we recruit that do the best is like, we say, look, you can move over here. Okay. But to get the full advantage of our brokerage is you really have to dig into the systems we have. You have to, show up for some, if not all the training, right? You've got to have, and the problem with veteran agents, right, is that they don't follow the processes they need to do to dig into their CRM. I mean, agents come over and like, I need help with my CRM. Okay. You need help with your CRM, but you're going to have to be all in on it and say, I'm really going to do the work, because we won't be able to help them if they're not going to, absorb themselves in the systems of using Follow Up Boss at its highest level. That's the biggest problem with almost any veteran agent. If they have a lapse in sales, they're not in the database. And it's such a cliche thing to say, like, get in your database, but it's also the true advice that most top producing brokers and team leaders will give you.
I love that, Ryan. This idea of like, it's not actually a problem with your CRM. It's the problem, the fact that you're not using it.
Absolutely.
Right? CRM's fine. Johnny, how, like, if you were to generally bucket, I'm thinking now of someone who wants to up level their sales training and coaching. What are like some of the main topic buckets that you're covering? I mean, I just heard obviously new lead follow-up and some better habits for folks that aren't as experienced as some other folks. I also hear how to stay in touch more effectively with our database. I certainly hear things related to using the CRM more effectively. If you were to generally categorize, like, well, I tend to do kind of coaching and training in these 4 or 5 categories, or 3 or 7 or whatever. Like, if you were to generalize that, kind of what are some of the categories that someone should maybe be thinking about developing inside their own team?
Well, one of the things that this is why this works so well is because the CRM and what we can automate within the CRM so that when people are in there. So one thing is, especially right now when we're in the fall season and it's been a slower year, is what are you putting in place to automate communication to your people as a nurture that's not pushy and sales. So we have a lot of things that we can do with emails and blog posts and a lot of things there. So staying in frequent touch with your database in a gentle manner, if you will, in a non-sales fashion, so that they know that you can stay front of mind and you're not just in real estate. So I think that's one of them. Specifically, how to talk to sellers and buyers at the same time, a seller, buyer, client, and all the variables and the challenges and the benefits, and working with the right agent that can walk you through the path every step of the way. That's a big training topic right now. Connecting with their sphere, finding their niche, things that are going to help them really identify what's unique about them. And one of the things that is what's really great about Spyglass, this is something that really drew me to the company as well, was that Ryan was a top producer, so was the company, and it allowed me as a non-producer to lean into the company and use that as what was beneficial for me as well. So learning what's available to them within the company, like whether they're a seasoned agent or a newer agent, however long they've worked with us, really understanding what we have that's going to help them and using the technology and our training out there in the field.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Johnny does 3.5 hours of training a week. Okay. And I think that's really important. And teaching people how to talk to people. I remember at FubCon, there was a panelist that said, oh yeah, we don't do role play. We don't do objection handlers. And to me, that's ludicrous, right? If you don't know how to solve someone's objections, this isn't like manipulation here, right? Because, I think I heard something the other day. It says, they said something like, when someone gives you a no, they're giving you the no based on the information they have right now, right? So the way that you change that is you give them more information so that they can say yes. And this isn't manipulation. This is consultation. But you can't do that unless you dig in to what your clients and consumers or what their fears are, because they're giving you a no because they fear something and they don't have enough data to give you a yes. So, when you talk about one of the things that we've really leaned in heavily on and with helping agents is training. Objection handlers it's one of the most important things you can do to help your client, not to help your business, not to help your bottom line, but to really help your client is solve the problem of what are they scared of and how can you help them feel better about that fear.
Yeah, love it. And how do you get to your own level of understanding so you know how to help them? The question series to guide that. I think the intent is the key there. I agree with you that some of this can be misperceived as manipulation, but in fact, it's just really helping someone understand the problem. The other thing that we run into all the time, and we haven't hit any of the keywords that come up on the show a lot in this conversation yet, words like accountability. Mm-hmm. I say one word, you think it means one thing, you think it means another thing, she thinks it means something else. And so there's even some of that with our buyers and sellers too. Like we think we're being clear in our language, but they don't understand exactly what we're talking about. I do not want to run long, but I would love to hear when EOS was implemented and did you evaluate any other systems? And I know that's the top one, but did you consider any other systems, and did you have it implemented professionally, or did you all just let's read the book and listen to some podcasts and figure it out?
Yeah. So we read the book, listened to the podcast, tried to figure it out. Okay.
True Spyglass style.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Like we could write a book on all the mistakes we made. When we went into it, actually the EOS implementer that we had hired actually changed from EOS to Pinnacle. Okay. And it was basically this. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Same book, different cover. And then we moved to a different implementer that was EOS. And in retrospect, what I found out is that we didn't hire an implementer because, revenue was not where it needed to be. We were, on a budget. In retrospect, I wish I would have found the money and to begin with. Because we walked in there thinking we were very far ahead. And by the way, we were not that bad. I mean, I think it was an easier job for him to work with us being self-implemented. But that was a year we wasted where we could have fast-tracked it. And so, going from a Pinnacle advisor to an EOS advisor was not, there was like, it's just different perspective. Neither of them, I think, was better than the other. The systems were very much alike. But I think that from my standpoint, it is the biggest thing that we've ever done with our brokerage to make us more nimble and more efficient. And for those people that aren't familiar, I don't want to get into everything about EOS, but it's just a framework. People are like, oh, wait, what is EOS? A software? No, it's a framework with how you conduct your business. And especially for people that haven't been into like these Fortune 500 companies, they all do something similar. This is a way for people that aren't in that type of environment, who haven't been in that type of environment, to level up the way that they conduct their business in a very rapid manner.
Yeah, really good. Other words like accountability that we hear a lot on this show are like systems and processes. And for me, it creates this like gridding over the whole thing. You have to fill in all the details, but it gives you this kind of like a grid or a way to hang all the things you need to in the right places so that there's a structure that didn't exist before. And it just fast tracks that process.
Yeah. And, look, I mean, I never claimed to be the smartest guy in the world. I'm a recovering redneck with a GED from Louisiana. So, having the kind of framework to kind of teach some of the stuff that I don't owe $250,000 because I went to college is really good. Yeah.
Agree. Johnny, what has been the most challenging or exciting thing about EOS from your perspective?
Oh, I think, so if you are someone that has a lot of distractions and you can find a system that works and the system's in front of you and you can just stick with it, it's going to work. So that's what's been really beneficial for us with EOS. When we try to self-implement, like Ryan was saying, it helped us stretch and like compartmentalize what we needed to do. But then when we had someone else facilitating and really writing out our business and allowing us to have our space to figure out what was important in our business, that was really eye-opening for me, to sit in a room with our leadership team and us just really like dissect the business, figure out what works well, what doesn't work well, what do we need to do, what do we need to accomplish, and then scale it way down to a very small level that I can now go do every day throughout the next 90 days. It's surprising how easy it is to run such a great company when we're meeting and running the company like we do. It's really weird to have, like, I'm looking at the wall of awards that we have. I'm like, we meet, we do our thing, but we're following the systems. I'm following the systems, the processes, what works. We're teaching it, and the agents are too. So it's just the reciprocating success that Ryan had individually, that I had individually, and now we have it 130 plus agents with like 14 or 15 teams within the company. So yeah, that's what's been my most eye-opening moment about EOS.
Yeah, another thing I'd say is it's good for us to hear different perspective from someone else. It's kind of like, we do so much training. We did ninja training a few weeks ago when we were in, and a ninja implementer came over and do an installation for our agents. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff that he says is stuff that Johnny covers in his training. But they hear it from somebody outside the organization and like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm like, okay, sure, fine. We get it. Somebody else said it. And so the same thing with the leadership too, is like, everyone kind of knows what, if you're in business for a long time and you're a student of business, you kind of know what you need to do, but it's always good to have someone other than in your organization tell you what to do it.
Yeah, 100%. All right. I know you have a hard stop shortly, Ryan, so I want to get to our fun closing questions, and it's 3 pairs of questions. So I'll direct the first pair to you, Johnny. What is your very favorite team to root for besides Spyglass? Or what is the best team you've ever been a member of besides Spyglass?
Rooting for teams been hard for a while, but so I'm going to go with the number one team I've ever been a part of other than Spyglass. And that has to be my high school football team. That started through 7th and 8th grade all the way through 4 years of high school to the district championships and state semifinalists. So that was 25 years ago. And we had
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had an event a few weeks ago at the high school as a commemorative event for our football team. So it was great to see half the team that day as well a few weeks ago. So that was pretty cool.
Texas high school football is a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here you are 25 years later. That's awesome. Ryan, what is one of your most frivolous purchases, or what is a cheapskate habit you hold on to even though you probably don't need to?
Oh gosh. I don't really have any cheapskate habits. One of the most frivolous purchases, I don't know if it's a frivolous purchase, but I just got a Lucid Air, and it's not like the top of the line one, but I freaking love it. So
awesome.
And then the one thing with the teams, like I'm always going to go for the underdog. Okay. And like, I'm really, as an independent brokerage, I love the independence. I love shopping at local. I love going to local restaurants. So I think that kind of answers that question.
Yeah, really good. John, how do you invest your time and attention into learning, growing, and developing? What's that look like for you?
So I have been a sponge to people smarter than me, making suggestions on things to do and listen to and read along the way. So read some books along the way to help get us here, but going to trainings and like the conferences every year, I go to at least one or two conferences, and that's even if it's locally, that's a huge investment in time. Which early on I learned that if I'm going to go to those conferences, rather than it just being a social event and meeting people and drinking and conversations, I have to walk away with something that I can actually apply and then actually execute on it. So those times that I've invested in myself and going to the conference, $500 on a weekend or $1,000, whatever it is, to go have an immersive experience, those are the things that have really catapulted my business afterwards.
Yeah, the in-person dynamic makes it super, super powerful. And it is the most important thing you said there, I think, that I want other people to hear. If you don't hit that 30 or 60-second back button to hear it again, you'll hear from me right now, which is to go into these things with clear intention.
Yeah.
Right. If you just show up and you're showing up, then you're going to get what you showed up for. Whereas if you come in with intent, you're going to get something much more intentional out of it. Ryan, what does it look like for you? Similar question, but different direction. What does it look like for you to rest, relax, and recharge?
Oh gosh. For me, I'm very ADHD, and my brain is just like, hard to shut off. I love to watch a movie or, binge a Netflix show or some stupid sci-fi thing on Apple TV.
Awesome.
And video games a little bit, but not as much as I want, but just to I want my mind to turn off.
Yeah. It makes me want to go look up the filmography of Spyglass Entertainment. I want to know what movies they produced. Maybe get one of those out of them.
They're produced a lot. They're big, bigger than me.
Cool. I've heard of them. To quote the person who should not have heard of you. This has been awesome. I appreciate you both so much. If people want to learn more about either of you or connect or follow you or about Spyglass, where would you send folks to follow up on this conversation?
Yeah, so my Instagram is @Ryan Rodenbeck, and then I also have realtyhack.com.
You can find me on Spyglass at Johnny Mac Spyglass Realty, and on Facebook, John McCarthy Real Estate. Instagram.
Cool. Realty Hack, that's your podcast.
Yeah, and I've got a website, and that put you can find all of our social media channels on that website, realtyhack.com.
Cool. Whether you are watching or listening to this episode with me and Johnny and Ryan, all the links plus some bonus ones are going to be right down below, whether you're watching in YouTube or whether you're listening to your podcast app. I link all this stuff up in all the descriptions, including a list of all kind of the core topics that we covered here. So I appreciate everyone listening, and I most appreciate you both so much for making this happen. It's always difficult to coordinate calendars with one person, much less two. So I appreciate you making it happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Ethan.
You got it. It's been great. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Team OS. For email exclusive insights every week, sign up at realestateteamos.com.